This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Yo, what's happening, man? Mike, Sunday night, we got World Series of bowling. We got some scandal going on right now in the college bowling world.
Rob, do you want to talk about college kids dipping their balls in liquid, or do you want to talk about the World Series of striking? Which would you like to talk about? For I feel like never a shortage of topics to talk about in the bowling world. So this week we have college students dipping their balls in unapproved liquids, and we have the World Series of ridiculous scoring.
I say we talk about the World Series of striking because there's a lot to talk about, and then we can get into the scandal more mid show. That's my opinion. I don't know where you want to go.
All right, well, I can say this. The people are going to be disappointed again this week because your boy didn't bowl league again this week.
Oh, man.
I was out again.
So disappointed.
I know. Well, listen, I can give. I have my finger on the pulse of the Sweep the Rack community, and I can tell you that the people show up here for my league reports. Love you guys. Big shout to all of you. So I know the people are mad disappointed when I don't have a league report for them. I heard that Mr. X subbed last week. I heard that he was using an extremely aggressive bowling ball on the short and struggled a bit. I finally convinced my teammate to drill up a urethane ball, a legit urethane ball, and he did. He drilled up a black hammer because he had to wait to get a purple hammer, and he didn't want to wait to have a urethane in his hand for the short. So he also bought the black hammer, and he liked it. He said he bowled pretty good with it. He said that yeah, you were right. I think it's a good tool on that. So even though I'm not there, I'm still trying to help out. I'm still staying in tune with what's going on. I've talked about it a couple of weeks already. I'm currently busy running around the state of New Jersey, trying to cultivate a soccer opportunity for my daughter for next year.
Dude, Mike is the busiest. Trust me, you can't even get a response from him in a text message. It takes him hours to get back to you. So I don't know. I don't know what he's doing during the day, but
I can tell you. Well, during the day, it's work. That's what it is during the day, because my job ties me up. Like when I'm teaching, I'm teaching. You pretty much can't reach me unless it's an emergency. Then the second factor is that my kids are involved in so much stuff. So we're constantly, just on the go. Like, I'll give you one example. Friday night, okay? Now, it turned out that there was no betting on Friday night, right, for the World Series because Bet Rivers dropped the ball, and we'll talk about that too. That put a damper on things for me because the only night, and we'll talk about this too, the only night that I could actually stay up and watch match play, they didn't have betting. Nonetheless, on Friday night, I worked all day, got home at 3:30. By 4:15, me and my daughter were on the road. We drove 50 minutes to go to a team practice with a soccer team that she's interested in and is trying to earn an opportunity with. She practiced for an hour and a half from 5:30 to 7. And then we got in the car and we drove an hour and 10 minutes to the dance studio. Got there about 8:40, and she did dance for about an hour. And then we got back in the car and we drove 40 minutes home. So, that's like what a normal Friday night looks for me right now. It looks like for me right now. So I don't know about all of you out there, but I'm not saying I'm the busiest man in America, but we keep it moving over here. Okay. We keep it moving over here. We're on the go. There's no sitting around on iPads and phones for a bunch of hours of the day in my household. We don't do that. We don't do that. We stay on the go. My kids are very involved in things. So, yeah, but I'm not going to lie. We gotta scale back a little bit for next year because we're a little too busy. We're trying to do too many things at an elite level right now. Too many things at an elite level. We're gonna have to scale that back for next year. But all right, I'm done. I'm done with that. Let's
All
get
right.
let's get back to bowling talk.
Well, real quick,
No league report. League report next week. I'm bowling on Tuesday, I believe. So hopefully league report next week.
Got it. Okay. We look forward to your league report, Mike. I know whoever does.
I know you all do. And by all, I mean like 3 people.
Yeah, man.
Hold on. Can we just address that real quick? Kevin, what's up? Get Kevin in the chat says XJB tier.
I know a lot of Kevin JB.
Drop the last name. Drop the last name, bro. If you're an XJB tier, we need a last name, bro. What's good, Hoss?
It took me months of going back and forth between my physician and my back specialist. Just got my MRI scheduled. I'm excited about it. I finally could get the ball moving because I haven't thrown a ball since I threw my last shot of league. I think that was like December-ish.
And remind us, this is for what? This is for your back?
Back, my lumbar, because that's what's affecting my knee. It's affecting my back, and it's more only when I bowl. Okay. I do other things. I go to the gym. I treadmill. I stair stepper. I hike. I do all kinds of activities physical.
Every time I call you, you're like, I'm at the gym.
I know, and I bowling for some reason is the one thing that just completely puts so much torque on my back and my knee. And after I bowl, it just feels like I'm ready to like not ever want to do it ever again. So I just want to get a back specialist to look at it, an MRI and my x-rays, and then maybe physical therapy. There's no way I'm doing surgery. It's not, that's completely out of the question. It's not happening. So yeah, hopefully I can start bowling again by like the summer and have another back.
Why would you need surgery if it's strictly a bowling? You know what I'm saying?
It's scoliosis. If anybody knows scoliosis, it's an extreme 54-degree angle scoliosis. It's like there's no way to fix it other than having like fusion spinal surgery. And if anybody's been through it, I would love to know their experience. Drop me an email, drop a comment, but it's hard surgery. It's like you're in bed for from what I hear, months, and it takes 6 months to a year to fully recover from it. And they put literal like rods in your back. It's a terrible surgery. So I'm just going to go through the motions right now to go see what a doctor, a specialist tells me. And then hopefully I can get some kind of direction on physical therapy and how to like at least make my back, what exercises to do and how to get it stronger so I can start bowling again.
Yeah, I do your own research too. See what other options are available to you out there.
But MRI is the first step of all of it. So, there could be something different that's wrong with it that I never knew. So, yeah, I'm not in a rush to come back bowling. There's thought in my head, and you might not like to hear this, Mike, but there's a thought in my head to if I'm going to come back bowling, it might just be 3 games a week on a house league. Okay. I don't have the physical ability or physical strength to like practice as much as I need to bowl on a sports shot. And I don't want to just go bowl 3 games a week on a sport and keep bowling 500 and just wait for a short pattern to use urethane on to strike. You know what I mean? Because that's where it is right now. Like if it's a short pattern and you could use a urethane and the urethane hooks, you could literally not need to practice and strike on that. It becomes easier than a house shot, in my opinion. But you bowl in these longer patterns and you have to move in, throw resin. You need to start physically throwing shots. Like you have to duplicate shot making. And when you're not practicing, it's hard to do that. And spare shooting is terrible. Jason Diaz, if I'm thinking about doing yoga, I actually started doing yoga the last 3 weeks. I do it about once or twice a week. And bro, let me tell you, I could lift weights and I'm strong. I could do all kinds of lifting. But when it comes to yoga, my body is completely, it's the worst thing ever for it. And meaning like it's hard to do it, which means I probably need to do more of it. But yes, I am doing that.
All right. I also want to say I draw the line at talking about yoga with Rob. So we're
Yo, it's important though. Yoga is really good for bowling. It is. It gives you flexibility. It gives you strength and a lot of. It's very relatable, honestly. Like I wouldn't surprise me if a lot of professionals do yoga in the off season to get their bodies right to bowl on tour. Honestly.
fair point.
So, all right, Mike. Well, we got a lot to talk about because World Series is going on. But you want to start with the Weber because I think that's on people's minds more than the World Series is striking. So let's talk about the Weber scandal. Okay. What do you think? Okay. So if anybody doesn't know, if anybody's living under a bowling rock these days, Weber International recently had a USBC investigation done on them. And USBC, if you're not sure what their investigation concluded, they have their full, it's like an 8 or 9 page PDF that released for Weber International for the investigation. And it all started from a Reddit post, Mike, which is wild to me. First of all, that's the first thing I think I probably would want to talk about. But I guess two athletes with coach's permission were doing testing on soaking urethane balls. At least they got permission to do one, is from what I understand, the Black 78 hammer, where they went and bought MEK from Home Depot, which is methyl ethyl. I don't want to say it wrong. It sounds stupid. Ketone, KETONE, right? So they would literally soak the balls. They soaked it, and then they would just practice. They would use it. Then I think they even re-soaked some of them overnight. And it ended up where USBC got word of it from the Reddit post. So somebody probably like snitched on them, whatever you want to say. And I wouldn't know if I would call it a snitch, Mike, because if I was bowling college, and think about when we were bowling college, and one of the biggest powerhouse bowling programs put on something that you probably could get in trouble for, like, I mean, I'm not going to say I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? But it's nobody to blame but the Weber International person who put that post up, right? That's to me like the first like really dumb part of this whole like investigation. But long story short, USBC investigated, they interviewed, they found out there were more balls than thought of that were getting soaked. They interviewed the coaches, they interviewed other people that were like had more information, and
they had Weber send all the urethane balls that they have used in competition. Right, that's something that I read in the release, and they tested those. Am I correct about that?
I believe yes, and they concluded that none of the balls, or at least they found out that none of them were like used other than some practicing and maybe an in-house like sweeper they ran at Kegel. That was like just like probably whatever, like a small little deal that they probably just have for like the players, whatever, and some of the people who work there. So my first question to you, Mike, is well, the conclusion was that 2 of the athletes ended up getting suspended for like the postseason, right? And the coach too, I believe, who I believe the associate coach was Sydney Brummett, who's a PWBA bowler, and she's also a Bowl TV commentator part-time when the women are on tour.
And I think she's a USBC board member too.
Which is, there's a lot of stuff going on with this story.
Well,
so
let's go back to the snitching thing for a second. Can we go back to that for a second?
Let's do it.
So a lot of times in today's society, people snitch on themselves. right?
Good point.
And
I agree with that.
if you don't follow what I'm saying there, they snitch on themselves because everybody's always recording what they're doing and posting on social media. Okay, so to me, if we're going to address whether this was quote unquote snitching or not, I have to know like who was the source of the information. You know, did they post this on social media and make it publicly available for anybody following them, or even privately available for people following them? You know, was it someone within the organization who came out and posted something on Reddit or was this some sort of rumor that was going around and someone posted it on Reddit, you know, crying sour grapes or something, and that's what led. I mean, so the semantics matter to me there. You know, the small details are important in that argument about whether or not it's snitching. But let it be known that your boy here, I had my own issues about college teams not being honest and not playing the game of bowling with good character. When I was in college, there was an incident. I think you guys were at this tournament, Rob. But maybe not. I don't. I really don't remember. But there was an incident at the Coca-Cola Brunswick Coca-Cola Southern Classic. I forget exactly what year it was. I don't honestly. The details are foggy to me. I know this. We were bowling on a pair. There was a match going on next to us on the pair next to us. Player from one team fouls on the pair next to him. Okay, like his back leg goes over the foul line on the pair next to him, not on his lane, on the pair next to him. Okay, foul light goes off on that pair, and him and his team tried to play it off like he did not foul.
Okay, I'm going to stop you here because you comparing this foul story to what these Weber athletes did is like apples and bananas, bro.
I know, but I'm making a bigger point here. I'm making a bigger point that yes, I may support snitching in this situation. That's so, if you want me to get right to the point, I that's the point I'm trying to make. But that incident led to me and my team saying something to the effect of, "Hey, that's a foul. Like,
right?
You should be calling that yourself. That's a foul." And words were exchanged, and it led to a much larger and heated argument, which led to some other things. And actually, I think our team was put on probation for the rest of the year because of the ruckus, ruckus that ensued, in that incident.
I wanna read this part of the investigation because this will tell us a little bit. In the initial interview, USBC rules staff first contacted the student athlete who posted on Reddit. We will refer to him as athlete number 4. He stated that the post accidentally implied that Weber was doing something illegal. His explanation was that, quote unquote, we in the post in the collegiate community. When asked who in the collegiate community was soaking balls in chemicals, he stated he did not know of anyone in particular and no one at Weber. After pressing more about the practice of softening balls, athlete 4 indicated he knew about an experiment conducted by a Weber athlete, which is athlete number 1. The experiment involved a 78D black hammer, according to athlete 4. Athlete 1 softened the black hammer for 2 days straight. Athlete 4 watched athlete 1 throw the ball in a 48-50 pattern, and it did not stay on the lane. So that's like, there's more to it if you want to read it, but it sounds like somebody on their team was the one who posted it, right? And then it, like,
that's terrible. That's terrible, and that person should hang their head in shame.
Well, that's the day and age we live in, Mike.
I know, but if you had a problem with what one of your teammates was doing, you go to the coach. You don't go to Reddit. You go to the coach.
People can't resist social media, and that's the problem on today's day and age, right?
Yeah,
where
especially anonymously,
they're just
Reddit's all anonymous,
and so that's like, okay, so that's what happened with the Reddit post. So my question
But
here
that,
to
that
you,
doesn't that doesn't really matter, right? To me, that doesn't really matter. Like if some kid is soaking bowling balls in his free time to see what happens when you do it, I don't really care.
I know, but
To
that's
me,
illegal. That's a
I,
USBC. You can't do that.
I get it, but like that part of it actually surprised me a bit.
The rule.
That like just doing it violates, not using it, but doing it.
I I agree with the rule in one sense. If you think about it like this, that if you allow it to just if you allow it, and let's just say the rule says
Right. Then you can never tell who's using one and who's not.
right, it's
I understand that.
so that's why the rule's in place, right? And I agree with the rule because you don't know what's being like used and what's not being used. But here's the bigger question for me now is okay, is do we like do we know if they were using like you don't know now. They're I hate to say it because Weber is such a powerhouse of a bowling program, but now is there an asterisk in a little bit of a sense? Like, and I'm going to use the Houston Astros as a comparison, okay? When the Houston Astros got caught cheating with steal signing and the banging of the drums and all that stuff, you ask yourself, like, how long have they been doing this? And that's a fair question because if you get caught doing something against the rules, you start asking, well, how long have they been doing this? Right? Like you start to question years now, right? While urethane was what has been relevant in the sport, right? And you got to think like if you're bowling in college at this present moment, you wonder how long have they been doing it? Have they used balls against me or my team where they were doing this and they had an unfair advantage, right? And it's just you now open up this floodgate of asterisks of and just a cloud over the program in a sense. No,
Yeah, you do because I guess one of the things I thought when I read the release was, well, they asked them to send them all the balls that they had used in competition. Well, how do they know that there weren't other ones that they used in competition they didn't send?
nobody
So
knows.
that makes no sense, right? Like
Right.
so yeah, I definitely think that it's suspect, but yeah, like listen, Weber is a bowling school, right? Like they've won national championships in bowling. I don't think they've won national championships in other sports, not that I'm aware of anyway. So they're one of those schools that's a bowling school, and I feel like yeah, they're going to be doing everything that they can to try and win at the highest levels, right? And this could have been that, but it also could have just been a kid who's really a bowling nerd uh, wanting to experiment with these harder urethane balls, see how they can be altered. Now, why you would want to do that? Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'd have to hear that kid's explanation of why he wanted to do that because you would figure that the next step is if it works then well let's use them, right? And that's sort of an assumption that a lot of people are going to make, I think. But I
My
definitely
next
I
question,
definitely agree with you that it does somewhat put a cloud over their program.
and my next question here is: did the coaches, and I'm talking about Sydney and even Del Warren, who runs that, who's a friend of mine, and I've known Del Warren for forever. Did they know about the rule, and did they know that this eventually, if someone found out, could bite them in their asses because it did? So I would imagine if they didn't know about the rule, right? Like, and I feel like there was a failure here as well on the coach's part, right? Like if the coach knew the rule, the coach would have never allowed the coach would have been like, nope, like you cannot do this. Like if
Right.
you get like if there's any sense of it, like or anything, like we can get into a lot of trouble, the program can get into trouble, you guys can get suspended. Is it really worth you doing tests? And I guarantee you, any coach who know the rule, knew the repercussions, would have said absolutely not. So
Right.
I think there's a failure on the coaches and not to know what the USBC rule was. And I think I would love to be able to hear the explanation from them to to say that. And I don't know if I heard any statements from the coaches. And yeah, and everyone's talking about Packy's YouTube video, and it's true, Mike. Like Mike in the chat on Sando, Packy did a whole video on it. Mike Ruther, Packy did an experiment like this on his channel. And he said over and over, it's illegal and don't do it. The USBC report even mentioned Packy's video in their investigation, and Packy was like, they knew about it. I guess he was super transparent. You're allowed to do it if you're letting everybody know this is what you're doing and you're doing it for testing. So there was obviously, when USBC found out about this after the fact, then there was also a failure in that end, that if they were going to do this, maybe they should have like reached out to the USBC, or they should have documented the whole thing on social media like Packy did, and maybe they wouldn't have gotten in trouble, right?
Right.
So there's a part of here like, well, we found out by a Reddit post. Like, so what were you guys trying to hide? So there was a little bit of like, that made them also look a little bit guilty, right? Because they didn't they weren't transparent about what they were doing. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure the more details will come out about the story, but is there,
it's an unfortunate situation for those kids that get, that lose their postseason though.
Yeah, it is, sucks. And Jason in the comments writes, I think the coaches never knew this was going on with the soaking until it came to light by the USBC. I think you're right, though. I do think that the coaches probably found out after the fact that it was happening and were like, oh, shit, like we're going to just have to probably take the bullet here. You know what I mean? Like, I do think that the coaches probably didn't know about it and they didn't find out until after, and they're just like shaking their head and being like, imagine, Mike, you're a coach, right? You coached high school. Like, you don't know what your kids are doing, right, when you're not there. And then all of a sudden you find out after the fact they did something wrong, and you're like, oh, Lord, this could really, like, kill our program, right? Because they did something wrong and you didn't know about it. So there is a little bit of that, too, that probably happened here, no?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that because at the high school level, it's kind of a general rule that you never leave the kids alone. So my players were basically never out of my eyesight for more than a minute or two, if that, as I ran a scorecard down to a scoring table or something of that nature. But
I want to read this. Andrew says the report says that they knew and the associate head coach bowled in the sweeper and saw the kid use the dip ball. Read the report. I read the report, but it's just a lot to read. Like, so I missed a detail or two. So that shows.
No, I had read that they knew. I had read that they knew.
I'm trying to be optimistic and defend the coaches because they knew it was happening, but they just didn't know about the rule, probably. Like,
yeah, and when I read that, Andrew, that's why I said, like, the way that I viewed it was, you can view it two ways. After I read that, I said, all right, it's either one of two things. Either they were just doing research to see what happens, let's try this and see what happens. Or, the next step was going to be, let's use it in competition. Again, I don't want to harp on the kids in this situation because kids are kids and kids make mistakes. And, obviously these kids are going to have to use it as a learning opportunity and move forward from it. But I'll ask it as a question, I guess. Does it matter? Does it matter if the players that were involved in this were starting contributing members of the team or not? That's something else I thought about. Like, Weber has a lot of bowlers. Weber has a lot of bowlers that don't bowl in their A lineup, right? So if it's somebody who never gets playing time in a significant manner, then that would put it in a different context to me. If it's a player who is a major contributor to their regular starting team, then I think that puts it in a little bit of a different context for me. So, just want to put that out there. Also want to say, Jason D and a couple other people in the chat were saying, oh, they definitely knew the rule. Listen, I'm gonna and the rule is kind of common sense, right? I will say that. Like, why are you soaking bowling balls unless you're going to use them to cheat? It's common sense, right? I mean, you just wouldn't want to do it because if anyone found out, whether you used the ball in competition or not, people are going to assume that you did, and they're going to look at you that way. Okay.
Yeah.
But hold on. With that said, I didn't know that it was a rule, and I've been bowling my whole life, and I consider myself to be somewhat up on these kinds of things, and I didn't know it was a rule that doing something just like soaking the ball could get you suspended. I see social media posts of people doing all kinds of crazy stuff to their bowling balls, slathering them with turtle wax and putting bacon grease on them and duck fat, and who knows what people are doing out there with their bowling balls. But I guess none of those things are illegal to the point where we get you suspended.
Correct. And I agree. I'm like, I didn't know about the rule. My first instinct was like, why does USBC care if they're doing their own like bullshit testing? And then when I read the report and I kind of like sat back and like thought about it, I'm like, well, it makes sense why they would have the rule, right? Because you don't know if you could have and I think about college bowling where like you have like everybody throwing a urethane ball and there's like 10 to 12 like purple hammers, whatever, or black hammers on the rack, right? And what if they just like dipped one or two of them, like, and you mix it in, right? Nobody knows. Like here's where it is. It's very unfortunate that the coaches like let this happen, right? And didn't know the rules. And it's really unfortunate for the Weber because for me now there is an asterisk.
Maybe they knew the rules.
Maybe they did.
Maybe they knew the rules and they were like, "Hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying." And
maybe
we're trying to win this chip.
It could have been a malicious. I mean, it could have been malicious. I mean, you just don't know these days. And that's the problem is that that Reddit post, which is and them actually doing it, it's now you're putting a black cloud over years and years of hard work for a lot of like kids who maybe weren't cheating, or it's just now you have an asterisk and a black cloud over everything, and it sucks for them. It does, because of maybe one or two kids' actions like doing this. Like you start asking, how long have they been doing this? How many balls did they do this? Like it's human nature to ask those questions when someone gets caught like that, or a couple people get caught like that.
Yeah,
if the coaches knew, Mike, if the coaches knew, how long back have they known? Like you have to ask, how long have they been trying to, like, you start asking these questions, and it's reasonable, right? It's not like.
No, I think it is.
Okay.
I just in terms of the rule itself, right? Another piece that I thought about is that, well, there'd be a big difference, you would think, right? There's a lot of people watching, right? There's a lot of knowledgeable people watching these college competitions, right?
I agree.
So, okay, so like, I mean, listen, I thought about this. I did. I've thought about this it's at length somewhat. So, like, there's a lot of knowledgeable people. There's a lot of knowledgeable bowlers. If one person's throwing urethane, there's likely to be other people throwing urethane. I think there'd be enough of a difference in the way the ball was working if they were using these in competition.
Yeah.
That at some point, somebody in some competition somewhere would have said, "Wait a second, hold on. Somebody's got to test that ball. I want that ball pulled out of competition. I want that ball tested."
But here's where it could get sneaky, okay? Where they, in the investigation, talks about how the one ball they threw, right, where they soaked for 2 days, whatever, they couldn't keep it on the lane, right? Obviously, if you're going to be malicious and you're going to want an advantage, you're going to minute, right? You're going to make it so that it's not obvious, right? Even if and I'm saying is if you, now look, okay, we're speculating here, but if
is that possible though? I don't know.
If you're a Kegel and you have, this training facility and you have the ability and they're soaking these balls, like you could potentially soak it so light, so such a small amount that if it gives you 2 or 3 more boards than someone else, would you really know?
At that level, I think someone would question it
No, I
enough.
think you're giving way too much credit for people to like. All I'm saying is you just like all it takes is just the slightest alteration of the cover, right, where it gives someone an advantage, right? And that's why they
I guess you could be right because it's only 1 or 2 balls going down the lane in a
just
mix
don't
of
know. Like,
however
yeah.
many.
And
It's
if you
tough
give
to
it to a
say.
two-hander who's got a ton of rev rate, you're just going to be like, oh man, this kid he just got a ton of revs. Like he just is able to hook it more than I'm able to hook it, right? You don't think when you're bowling a tournament, you're not going to think like, oh, that ball's soaked. Like unless he's standing on 20 and everybody's on 5.
I don't know. I've
Like,
gone to a lot of tournaments where I've been like, man, look at that ball. What is it about that ball that my ball won't do that? And I'll walk
I
down
know,
like,
but then you start, you don't.
shield,
But how many
check
times?
it out.
But let me ask you though a question: how many times when you have thought that, where your first instinct was like, oh, those they must have like soaked those urethane balls? You don't
No,
even.
never.
That's not even your head.
No.
No, you think, oh, they're doing something different. Their rev rate's better. The layout's different. The cover, like you're not thinking they're cheating, right? So all I'm saying is now people are gonna be like watching really close, like, and it's just an unfortunate situation. And man, God, that whoever posted that on Reddit, Mike, if I was in college and I was on Weber and I found out that it was somebody I didn't like on the team who posted that on Reddit, oh my goodness, it would have been a. Do you want to talk about a melee like in your college tournament? Like it would have been a melee. Like I can't believe like you would do that. Like straight dumbass. I don't care. I'm just gonna call it. I'm just gonna call it a spade, bro.
All right. So I think the bottom line here is, kids learn a lesson. Don't soak your balls no matter what.
Just don't soak your balls.
Don't soak your balls. All
And I
right.
can't believe we're still talking urethane and softness.
The USBC does not want you soaking your balls. Don't do it.
Yeah, Robert, I wonder if they did get kicked off the team. Robert's wondering that they're probably no longer on the team. I mean, if you're Weber, you probably want to get far away from having those kids on your team, right? I mean, Mike, if you're the coach, you're kicking those kids off the team now. How could you show up with those kids?
I don't know.
Next year.
I mean, it depends on whether I can. It depends on whether I can attest to their intent or not. If I think their intent was to cheat, I'm 100% kicking them off the team. If I think they are character people and their intent was not to cheat, then no, I'm not going to kick them off the team because I
It's
don't
a good
think they
point,
deserve
Andrew.
it.
How can the coaches give the okay and then kick them off the team? I agree.
Well,
But
one coach can without the permission of another coach. And if that coach isn't the head coach, then that person might be gone too.
the coach got you 100%.
No, I mean,
Right.
so yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's somewhat of a complicated situation.
It's a good question from Needs a Kidney. Can you use dude wipes on your balls? Only if it's reacting like shit. That would be my answer to that question.
I want to bring this up, Ramsey Biserto. I want to say something. I've watched you bowl at the World Series this week, my guy. Big fan right here, bro. I want you to make a show, bro.
He's got a lot of emotion, Ramsey.
Make a run and make a show. We need your vibe on the TV show, okay?
He's working
So,
hard, man. I give
now,
Ramsey a lot of credit.
well, I'm also going to say, Ramsey, this is Sweep the Rack. If you've been around here, we keep it 100 around here. Today, he had a game where he went 9 out, like 8 in a row or something, 9 in a row. The 9 in a row, very impressive. I was vibing with you, bro. But the 9 out, we got to clean that up, bro. We got to clean that up, okay? So.
Ooh, Keith Poppity, my guy, JBT name.
Oh, boy.
Didn't Del Warren get busted out about 10 years ago with another school for fielding a legal team? Mike, do you remember any of that? I don't.
I do remember something like that, but I don't remember it being at a different school. I think it was at Weber again.
Huh.
I think that they had some kids that were ineligible that were bowling or something, if I remember
Hmm.
correctly. Not
Mike,
100% sure about that, but
is Weber the team that is skating that fine line, Mike?
well, I said it already. I mean, they're a bowling school, right? They're a bowling school. They're trying, they're a school that is consistently trying to win at the highest levels of college bowling. So, again, like, would it surprise you if an Alabama is finding a way to get an upper hand on the competition?
Oh, they've
Would
been
it
doing it for
surprise
years.
would it right? Would it surprise you if Penn State is
Oh, they
trying to
all
get an
do it.
upper hand on right? So that's what I'm saying.
They all
Now
do illegal recruiting.
in bowling, they're not all going to be doing it because not all of them have the resources or care enough about winning at that level to do it. But a school like Weber does, right? So yeah,
Oh, Mike. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll hear more news on that to come because I'm sure there'll be more details coming out and we'll let everybody know what's happening on that story. But yeah, if you guys want to do your own reading, the investigations on bowl.com, you could also even chat GPT it and it'll give you a good summary, like it'll summarize what happened if you want like the Cliff Notes version of it. But it's a 9-page PDF. It's actually a pretty good read for a bowling nerd who knows a little bit about that. So, and I think Jeff Briggles did a good article on 11 Frame too about it. So, yeah, more to come.
yeah.
All right, Mike.
I thought I was right, and some Robert Hamilton saying the same thing.
Juan, what's up, man?
Del Warren was suspended for a year by the USBC, and they vacated the 2017 ICC title
Ineligible
because
bowler.
of an eligible bowler.
Hmm.
So yeah, again, semantics there matter. Ineligible bowler. Did they know he was ineligible? When did he become ineligible? Were they notified, etc.? I mean, listen, there's always details to these things, right? And
Right.
sometimes the details matter. But all right, we'll leave it at that. So on to the World Series. But you know what, Rob? I mean, perfect transition here. They might want to test some of these urethane balls at the World Series, bro. Maybe the whole entire PBA tour is soaking their balls in mech
Oh man.
because urethane is back, and it's back in a big way at the World Series. Can I make an observation? And I could be
Sure.
completely off about this. I mean,
Go ahead.
I know enough to speculate. I know enough to infer, but I don't know enough to know whether I'm on the right track or not. Did the National Bowling Stadium, did the surface there ever get replaced?
I know they fixed the topography
Right,
years ago.
but it's
I don't know
still
about
the
this.
same synthetic lane surface that was installed numerous years ago.
I don't know the answer to that. I could look it up real quick and
Does anybody in the chat know the answer to that? If it's the same, because
okay.
here's my theory. My theory is maybe as these synthetic lanes get older and older, maybe they just they get grooved a little bit, they hook more, whatever. Oh, okay, so I'm wrong. New lanes put in a year or two ago, Jason D says. Really? Okay. All right. They replaced it once, Jeff says. It's not the same surface from when the place opened. Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of defeats my theory, I guess. Then I was going to say maybe with these older synthetic surfaces that have been used for a long time, maybe they just these urethane balls match up perfectly with whatever transitions or grooves have occurred in those lanes over that time.
So I threw this in Chat GPT just to see what they said. The National Bowling Stadium in Reno, Nevada, installed new bowling lanes on 1 through 78 in 2015.
Okay.
They talk about the remodel in 2019, but it doesn't say anything about a year or two ago.
Okay.
So, I mean, doesn't mean that's not the truth, but that's what the AI spit out to me. But okay, so what do you think the reason for the big surge in the urethane then? If it's not the lane surface, then obviously it's the patterns, right? It's just what the pattern
I don't
shape.
know. It makes no sense to me.
The scores are really, really high. So
Oh, it's stupid.
let's
It's
talk a little
stupid.
bit.
Let's be honest. I mean, it's just stupid. It's silly. The scores are so high, it's silly. Today, I looked at one point, and 16th place was averaging 250. You're averaging 250, and you're in 16th place. I mean, come on. Like, I know these guys are good, and I say that all the time, but that seems a little outrageous to me. You know, I think if that's where we're at, where the 16th place person is averaging 250 and throwing 9 or 10 strikes a game, we need to come up with new patterns to challenge these professionals.
So
Okay.
is there a bigger problem with the PBA then, with the just who, like, what they're putting out on the lanes, like the lane patterns, or just because even Simo made a comment I saw about how if they keep using these same type of shapes on the lane patterns, then you're just gonna, like, EJ Tack is just gonna continue to win essentially.
Well, wouldn't I mean, all respect due, I feel like that's true of a lot of bowlers who dominated eras.
And that's a good. I mean, it's a good comment, Jeff. So my brother writes, "You're assuming the PB even wants to challenge them." I mean, it's true. Like, you don't know what their thought behind the World Series is. Maybe they wanted to make it high scoring, Mike. Maybe there was a reason behind the madness. No.
Well, and I'm not against high scoring. I'm just against high scoring at this pace in
Yeah.
this event that means a lot, right? And is probably the most important 2 weeks of the season, right?
So
Or important week of the season, at least in terms of qualifying, right? And guys bowling qualifying and trying to earn points and trying to make match play and trying to make the cut for the world championship. But yeah, I don't know, man. I if I was in charge, if you snapped your fingers and put me in charge tomorrow, going into next season, one of the things I would be looking to do is create some different patterns, okay, that are US Open level challenging, okay? Different different angles, different volumes. Definitely want to create different opportunities for different styles of play. Okay. I definitely want to do that. And on top of that, I don't think I would release much about the patterns until the actual day of practice of the event. You know, I think that there's a lot of predictability in what these guys bowl on, and I think to take away some of that predictability would be a good thing at this point.
yeah, I agree. I do think that in years past, I've bowled a couple of World Series of bowlings. I'm talking like years ago, right? And actually, the last time I remember bowling, I bowled one. They were at Thunder Bowl, I believe. Or was it? That was Tour Trials. Either way, I bowled at South Point. They've normally done a pretty good job with the scoring pace at the previous World Series. I think, like 220s are usually probably going to make you, or maybe high two teens, 220s would probably make you into match play or make you into like the first cut. So I do think there needs to be a variety. Like they need to like do a better job, maybe having one pattern being a flat pattern, maybe having a next pattern where it is like a Viper type pattern where maybe you have a high scores, and then the next two patterns are probably you could keep the score pace around like, two teens will make it to, like, if you average like 220 to 230, you're in the top 5. I think we'd be all fine with that, right? Like just having a variety, being able to see the versatility of some of these players. Some of them maybe if you're straight, you have some success, right? I think the straight player this on the PBA tour is dead at this point, right?
Yeah.
Not
Not only is the straight player dead, the player who cannot create steep angles in the front part of the lane is dead. So not only do you have to be a straight player, you could be a guy who can get in and hook it, but can't get the ball from 25 to 6. Okay, like you can't shape the ball in that manner. And that's really what it seems like you have to do on a lot of these patterns, or that's what they kind of end up being. Listen, I just want more variety. I want more challenge. I want more variety. I want more unpredictability. I want players to have to be able to alter. Let me go a step further. Drastically alter their hand positions and releases to combat the lanes, as opposed to the bowling balls being the thing that is used to combat the lanes. Right? Like I feel like a lot of guys are throwing it the same way the whole block, and they just switch balls and move left and continue to throw it the same way. They change their angles a little bit, but they it doesn't seem like they change much else. I want to see guys have to change their release, change their strategy, change their. I mean, when I say change their strategy, I mean not have the strategy be so simple as, oh, we're going to use your thing to drag it out, and then we're going to move left.
So, do you think that there's just because they've crammed in so much bowling in the next 3 weeks that they didn't want to put out like super like hard patterns? I mean, could you imagine? And I'm just hypothetically in a situation where imagine they put out 4 U.S. Open patterns for the 4 like different patterns, right? Like if you had 4 days of different tournaments and you used a different length flat pattern with different volumes for every day, these guys would really put them through like the gauntlet. No.
Yes. And I also feel that would be more appropriate at this time for this event, because,
You
let's
want
be
that.
honest, like, yeah, like the reason I say that is because we're about, halfway through the season. They've bowled a few big events already. They've bowled on some easier stuff. They've bowled on some harder stuff. Coming into this event, if you ain't on your A game, good luck. So why shouldn't they be tougher? Why shouldn't they reward the guys that are throwing it the best and on their A game at this time during this event, during this meaningful event? Now, with that said, if you look at the standings of the World Championship, from what I saw, it reads almost like a who's who of who's been bowling good this year. Now BJ Moore a little bit of a surprise, but Tim Foy ain't no surprise. Belmo ain't a surprise. Bill ain't a surprise. Tackett ain't a surprise. So I don't know. I mean, whoever said it in the chat is right that I think it was Pat Brown. The best bowlers are going to find a way, right? The best bowlers are going to find a way, and I sort of agree with that, whether they're hard or easy, but I would much prefer to have them be challenged. I would, and I like to see guys at this level struggle. When you make them this easy, it feels like, oh, it's just a matter of who carries and who knocks 10 down and who doesn't. And I know that I'm probably wrong about that, because as you go further down the standings, there are guys that are averaging 180 while other guys are averaging 250. God bless those people. But, let's be honest, like those people don't belong at this level. They shouldn't even be a part of that conversation.
Yeah. So here's an observation too from the first like 3 or 4 tournaments, is that there's a lot of good international players that are not on full time on tour.
But how can you say that though when they're as soft as they are? I mean, don't you think that lends itself to somebody making the right decision with the right ball at the right time, and just having a great block? And because they had a great block or two, or they had a great look on this particular pattern, that all of a sudden you see them do well, and you're like, oh, so and so international bowler's doing great. And it's like, well, do they really have the chops to compete on the PBA tour,
I mean,
or did they just get hot for a 12-game block?
No, I'm talking about like some of these players that are international are in like the top right now, like 24 of the world championship.
Okay.
Like I'm not talking about one block. Like we Seong Darren Ong is 13th in the world championship, right? Rafiq
But I'll be
Ismail is
honest,
15th.
he's probably the prime example from what I've watched this week of a guy who I feel like over the long haul he does not have the type of game that you think would be able to compete on the PBA tour right now.
Yeah, but not
But
a lot of
for
the
whatever
international
reason,
a lot of the international players though aren't textbook style, Mike. Just because
oh,
they don't
this
throw
that
like
guy
David
is.
Ojo.
Oh no, that guy is. He's textbook smooth.
He's-
He reminds me of like a Mike Machuga, Dave Ozio type. Rolls the ball real well.
I know,
But
but you
like I
can't.
said, when I watched him bowl, I thought, wow, this is the guy that's absolutely crushing them right now. Like I expected it to be a two-hander who throws it pretty hard, 500 rev rate, and it wasn't that. And that
I
and that
know, but
that
I'm
makes
not.
me a little suspect of it. It makes me think like, all right, maybe it's just this guy matching up in this building on these patterns, with this
Maybe
ball.
look, like I'm not going to sit here and take credit away from the guys that are sitting in the top 24 of the world championship right now who are international players just because they're easy, right? Like I'm not going to take credit away because they're still bowling a ton of games, and yeah, they might be softer, but like if you're talking about these full-time players, I'm going to throw out names, right? Guys like Chris Vi and Andrew Anderson, right? And these are guys like that are full time on tour that are not even in the top 24. So yeah, they're soft, but like those guys should be crushing them too, right? Like, and they're not. So you
Well,
still have to give credit to these international players for being in 13th, 16th. Like they're beating the full time pros, even if they're softer, right? Like,
um, yeah, you're bringing out all my hot takes tonight. Uh, One thing that I'm realizing through this PBA season is that there should be way less guys on the PBA tour.
ooh. So you mean that there's guys that are on tour that shouldn't be on tour?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. I
Just
think
from
that
just from watching, you mean?
I,
Just from what?
yeah, just from watching, just from seeing, just some seeing repeated results, and it just becomes clear after a while that like, you know, this player or that player, they're really not at a level to consistently compete with the other bowlers who are at that level on tour. I mean, and if it, I really don't want to give a name. I'll be honest. I really don't want to give a name. But if I have to give a name, the name I would give would be Christian Ascona. Okay, that would definitely be one of the names that I would put out there and be like, all right, like, if we have a tour where he's a regular participant, yeah, I mean, I don't consider him to be a factor in any event. So why? Like what's the to me make it more exclusive. Make it harder to make it out there. But
I disagree with you.
once you make it harder to make it out there, you are you are simplifying the product. You are giving more exposure to those players that have earned their right to be at that level.
Yeah, but I disagree with you. But how is someone like Christian supposed to then, like, maybe he has full-time aspirations or he wants to be in the top 10 or 15 eventually, right? You got to like start somewhere, right? And you got to give them an opportunity
Understood.
to
Understood.
get games and to learn, right? So like,
Understood. And I
how
get that.
how do players like that do that then if you're going to
Well,
make it more exclusive?
that's a different discussion, right? And that's a discussion about the regional tour and what the feeder systems
The,
should
reg-
be.
the regional
And
tour, don't
I
even
know,
there's
I know.
no.
I'm saying it would have to be revamped, right? Like if you make the tour more exclusive, you're right. The next question becomes, okay, well, how do we put in place the proper feeder system to give guys to identify the guys who should have a chance to go out there and try and prove themselves, right? Because you look at a guy like Tim Foy, who's having a great season this season, and is truly proving that like he's good enough to be out here and compete on an every week basis. And
100%.
I
He's gonna be
believe like
he might be a top 5 bowler this year at the end of the year.
he's going to win a title. He's going to break through this year and win a title. I believe that still, and he's proved so. Like that becomes the next question: is how do you sort out the Tim Foys? How do you give the Tim Foys still a path to compete at that level, right? So you're right. Things would have to change a lot, right? But yes, I'm convinced. I'm not going to lie to you, Rob. Like I wasn't going to talk about it this early in the season. I was going to wait until the end of the season and kind of bring this up as a part of a wrap up. But yeah, I'll put it out there now. I mean, I just think I'm convinced after watching this year that the tour needs to be more exclusive. It just does. Like they're probably, and this is a low number. I know people might go crazy over this number. I think the number might be like 24 or 28, 32, something like that, and that's it. If you're not one of those 24 guys, 32 guys, that's it. You have to find your way through that other path.
I there's a part of me though that wants to go the complete opposite way than you do. Like we grew up with the PBA tour, like being open to anybody who wanted to bowl, like who had a pro card, right? The bowl national stop, like it was open to like anybody with a pro card, and it made a lot of things interesting in the fact where like you had people once in a while making shows that were local guys, hero, like, and
no doubt.
There's a part of me that loves going that route. I just, I understand the exemption part of it, and I understand you want to make it more exclusive. I don't. I like giving opportunities to guys like Christian, guys like Chase Nadeau, and Nathan Bohr, and guys that are out there every week that are struggling a little bit. But
does that help the PBA? Does that help bowling? Is bowling better off for that? I mean, those stories are cool. Those stories are cool. I hear you, but I think that
if you're gonna find the gem, if you got to find a hidden gem of a personality, right? Like I think it does help bowling.
Wouldn't you rather see the Tackett's and the Simonsons and the Belmos bowl each other more often?
No.
Okay.
I'd rather see someone like remember when Rudy made those shows, right? Remember those 2 or 3 shows that he made?
I went to one. It was the outdoor one at Bryant Park.
And I could be wrong here, but if the tour was exempt and exclusive, we would have never had those shows when Rudy made it, and the excitement behind Rudy making it. I think if you're going to find a hidden gem in the PBA that maybe starts putting some outside eyes to the sport, you have to find somebody outside of the exempt pros that are there now. Just my opinion. I think you might find a hidden gem of a personality pops on, and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, like this kid, it came from nowhere and has a larger than life personality and might bring more eyes to it.
Yeah, but they're only going to be on there one time. That's my point.
I know, but that's the fun of like.
And if they're a flash in the pan and they're only on there one time, it doesn't really do much.
I know, but
unless that person can keep earning their right back and earning their way back to that exposure level, it doesn't mean much.
But what is EJ versus Simo doing for bowling right now? If they keep bowling each other,
the best of the best.
But what does it do? What is it bringing in more people to watch? Are the ratings all of a sudden that much better? If they, you know what I mean? Like you got to also think about it like that too.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think that my idea here would definitely take some time to like take root. Where now you're building like the same stars all the time. You got the same guys showing up on TV all the time, same matches taking place all the time, right? It might take some time for that to become meaningful or develop some meaning. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's as it's as great for things as you make it out to be. That an international guy comes over, he makes one show and finishes third or second, or even he wins. Like they never make it again. So what does
it matter? Do you remember Hey, I'll throw one name at you. And I'm going to compare it, right?
3-bet one. Prove me wrong, bro. Prove me wrong.
No,
Bad
listen
take.
to me.
Like
Listen.
where the parity ain't there anyway, bro.
Listen to me.
I said it last year that like these guys, these young guys on tour who quote unquote break through, and they win a title or they have a couple good performances or a good season, and then where are they? Where are they?
I think you're missing
they're
there.
not coming back around.
I'm going to throw a name at you, okay? There is a gentleman of the name of Robert Varconi. Do you know who Robert Varconi is?
Yes, I know who he is.
Okay. Amateur made a run of the World Series and won.
know.
Amateur beat everybody. Okay. Now imagine a bowling comparison where an amateur makes a run at like a US Open or a Masters, which has happened before, right? But a US Open or World Series where this amateur no name beats EJ Tackett in the finals. It's a great story. Like you got an amateur bowling against the best bowler in the world and he beats him. Like, and I think that is also an interesting story too. So okay, we could argue a different day.
All right, back to the World Series. So
look, here's my thing though.
We talked about urethane, right?
We talked about urethane. Here's my thing about World Series is I'm not a big fan, and we're going to talk about the scheduling of how everything's scheduled, and I think that's where we want to go with this next. Like,
the schedule has stunk.
It's so bad.
Tom Clark, you did a terrible job putting together the schedule.
Ooh, okay. Tom.
Terrible for anybody on the East Coast. Terrible for betting. Okay.
Rivers can't keep up.
Because every night there's match play. It doesn't start until 10 o'clock East Coast.
Right? That Rivers isn't even putting bets up for.
I know. They didn't even put them up on Friday. Even if you get action, you're putting it in and then going to bed and not even watching. I can't even watch the action I'm putting
What's the point of it?
Terrible. Why are we scheduling it that way? Why are the match play blocks? Okay. Why are the match play blocks taking place one block this week and the other two blocks next week? Why couldn't we do all three blocks next week? And if your answer is, well, we didn't want guys to have to stick around who only made one match play. At least we got the first round out of the way. So if they're staying around basically for a chance to bowl on the show. Okay, I understand that. I get that. Then why couldn't you have the match play blocks a little earlier in the day when people can actually watch them? Right? So, yeah, I just the schedule is just horrible. It almost ruined the World Series for me. They're doing qualifying in the middle of the day with a break around when everybody on the East Coast is getting out of work. There's a break in the action. And then the match play doesn't start until 10 o'clock at night. Great schedule.
Yeah, it just seems like there's just way too much going on, in my opinion, all at the same time. I think they need to, I don't know what it is, but they need to figure out a way to like make better times for fans and make it easier to follow. I think it's a little bit crazy. Like you don't even the schedule is just so much going on that I'm trying to keep up, and it's hard to keep up with who's bowling what time is everybody bowling, who, like, Mike, am I wrong? Is it just like kind of like really hard to follow, like who made what? Like we, as a podcast, I can't even go through these tournaments and go through it because you know how hard it is to look in the Scorpion, Viper, Chameleon, they got Shark, and it's like all crammed in, and I don't know. I'm just kind of during the week. I'm working. You're busy. I got so you just try to. It's just a lot. I'm overwhelmed in a sense trying to keep up with everything. But all right, Mike. Well, we got Shark going the next 2 days, and then the World Championships.
Well, you have Chameleon match play tonight.
Chameleon match play. Yeah. Tough to bet. Everyone's averaging 250.
Yeah, I know.
Like.
And again, it starts at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Like I'm not even going to be awake by 10 o'clock on Sunday night. Like I'll be in bed by 9:30. So, I mean, I can put some bets in, but like I like to watch. I like to sweat. I like to watch the bets that you put in. What's the most shocking thing been to you at the World Series so far?
Man, shocking is seeing how many full-time pros are struggling and how many international players are like kicking their ass essentially. Honestly, like you have some full-time like really really big names that are struggling that are even in like, I mean, Marshall Kent is in 82nd right now, Mike. Like, and I'm just using him as an example. Packy's in 86th. You know, Matt Russo's 92nd. I mean, those are big names, Mike, that are not bowling very well. And then you got guys like I talked about the Malaysian guys like Ong. You got Ishmael. You have a guy from Quebec, Nathan Rest. I'm not even going to try to say his last name.
LaJoy.
LaJoy's
Yeah,
in 18.
he's been around before.
He has, but these are names. Essentially, these are unknown names,
Right.
right?
Not
So
regular tour guys, right?
not regular tour guys. And you guys have like Smallwood, who's 36th, and Andrew Anderson's 38th. So I think that's to me the biggest surprise. Like Eric Jones, right? Like I expect him to have a better. Jake Peters is 49th. Butters is 52nd. I'm just using some examples of surprises that I would imagine like that's where the World Series, man. You got a lot of the international players who normally aren't bowling. They come in and all of a sudden they're beating a lot of these full-time pros.
Most shocking thing to me has been the scoring pace.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just blistering, bro. Blistering. 250 in 16th place. I mean,
That's
what?
nuts.
What?
Yeah.
The other shocking thing to me, and this is shocking in a good way, is Verity Crawley.
Oh, she's great though. She's a great bowler.
Get ahead, Verity.
Go get you
Get
some.
ahead, girl. I mean,
She throws it better than 98% of the guys.
oof.
That balance of hers, God, if there was one thing that I would want to emulate on any player out there, it's Verity Crawley's balance at the line. You want to coach a youth bowler?
Start there.
Make them watch Verity.
Start there. Get them looking at the line like she looks at the line, and you're off to a good start.
I love watching her throw the ball. I would call ourselves traditionalists, right? For a one-handed traditional style, it doesn't get any better than her physically at the line.
Oh, are you saying that she throws it the best for a female ever?
I would say that she is I could probably put her up there in the top 3 best women bowlers of physically throwing.
Right, physical game. Game. We're not talking resume and wins. We're talking physical game.
Right, I'm not going to put her above Liz Johnson, okay, who's throws it not as good as Verity Crawley and has had
really no. Liz Johnson does not throw it better than Verity Crawley.
No, that's what I'm saying, but she's had more success. So like Kelly Kulick would be up there with me.
And who else?
Verity Crawley, Kelly Kulick, and then I'd have to really think about it. Really think about physically. Lisa Wagner.
Okay, for me it's easy. It's Tish Johnson.
Oh man,
it's Tish Johnson.
She was scary.
Tish Johnson, bro.
She was scary.
Tell me that when Tish Johnson bowled on TV in the '90s, that you didn't try and go out and emulate what she did at the line and with her five. I mean, it was just a thing of beauty, bro. I loved watching her bowl. She was so good.
Scary. She was scary.
She was so good.
Like Michelle Feldman. That's another like, but I'm talking like physically, like if you're trying to emulate someone.
Yes. Like
Verity Crawley,
like
Kelly
David Ozio, right? Yeah. Okay, like I consider him to be like
Diana Zavadilova,
physical bowler.
Diana Zavadilova is pretty good too.
Yeah,
right?
She's too much this way for me. I feel like
I know. Verity Crawley, Kelly Kulick. That would be my like 1-2.
I agree, bro. I agree.
I love watching her.
I often in my head say to myself, like, yeah, you really just want to throw like Kelly Kulick, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just want your arm swing to be that straight and that free, and your footwork to be that good, and like it's just repeatable and repeatable.
Dude, no disrespect to the GOAT Kelly, but I think Verity throws it better than Kelly, man. Like, I'm in love with the way
Verity
Verity throws
good,
it.
bro. I can watch her bowl all day, every day.
I hope she can get on. I hope she could get on a show and show these guys what's good. These two-handed urethanes, let's go, Verity. We're rooting for you, girl.
One more shocking thing, if I can here.
Okay.
I'm shocked by how bad some of these competitors are.
Oh, the dumpster diving is going to be.
I mean, guys,
real weird.
Guys, I said on Twitter earlier this week, like, what were some of these people thinking signing up for the World Series? Like, were they legitimately thinking it was on some house shot or something? Did they not know what these patterns are? I mean, I see some absolute horror shows out here, bro.
I'll tell you though,
I'm looking at Hack City.
Well, Mike, I'm looking at the lowest averages, okay, that have bowled all games because there's a lot of withdrawals. There's a lot of DNFs, but a lot of DNFs.
How many DNFs now?
What's that?
How many are there? I didn't see that many the last time I checked.
Oh wait, no, I'm wrong. A Stipich DNF, but he was
injured. I was gonna say I didn't think there were any other than.
Yeah, no, I think there was a senior player who withdrew. Because I don't see him having a lot of games, regardless, right? Steven, man, good to hear that. I love hearing.
Steven in the chat says first time he's able to join us live. Listens to us while on the road. Keep up the great work. The only true bowling podcast out there. Sweep the rack.
Let's go.
Sweep the Riz, son. Thanks for the support, Steve. We appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, like, what's really frustrating, and I remember this is a personal experience of mine, is bowling the World Series and maybe averaging like 215 or 220 and being like, oh man, like, or for like 3 games or 4 games. And then you look at the leaderboard and you see like someone like Belmonte like shot 800. This is what's happening now.
And you probably just felt like you bowled the best 3 games you might ever bowled in your life.
Yeah, I feel bad because you feel like you bowl great and you should be in the top, like whatever it is, like 15, 20. And then you look at this leaderboard and you got like
56th.
Yeah. I feel like that's happening right now with a lot of
that's what I'm saying. Like, could you imagine averaging like 230 something for a block, and you're bowling the block and you're like, oh, I'm averaging 230, like I'm throwing it so good, like I'm hitting the hole all the time, like if I could just get a hit here or hit there, I'm averaging 250. I got to be doing pretty well. And then you get done the block and you're like halfway down the standings. I mean, that is disheartening as hell, yo.
Yeah, I'd imagine like it's even harder to average 190. Like, and you think like, oh, you show up, and that's where a lot of the low averages are right now. And you're like, oh man, like I averaged 190 and 32nd was 222. And you're like, man, like I shouldn't be here. Like, like I'm getting out by 30 pins, but all right, we'll see what happens. There's still a lot of bowling left. You got the Sharks, and then you got all the match play next week, which should be a lot easier, I think, to follow during the week. So hopefully things pick up and get better. But yeah, I mean,
at this point, I haven't checked the time for the shows, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're on at like 3:30 in the afternoon Eastern time or something, or maybe it'll be like 11:15 at night Eastern.
Maybe.
Who knows? I got to check the times. So hopefully they're at a more reasonable time where we can actually check them out.
Yeah, I get it. I'm going to study the PBA website this week to get my times and my dates correct.
So far, if you had to pick one guy who's absolutely coming out of this World Series with a title, who is it?
Belmonte.
Okay.
I think Belmo gets one.
No doubt.
Yeah, I think Belmo gets one. Boog's been bowling really good.
I like Tim Foy.
Boog. I think you'll see Boog, Foy, Belmo. I think Tackett, of course, will probably get the world championship. That's probably my guess. I'm not going out on a limb there. I could see Jesper getting one too. Jesper loves this kind of urethane score fest, bro. This is his A game. And when he has his A game, he's very, very, very good. So Jesper, I could see like.
Kegler 3000 says Belmonte is extra motivated. You want to know something, Kegler? I watch his blog every day, I watch his blog, Darren Tang's blog, the House blog, and Brad and Kyle blog. Those are the ones that I watch regularly. I'm not saying I catch everyone every day, but I catch those regularly. And they show all kinds of shots from Belmo throughout his block. And I gotta say, I don't know if he's just doing it for the camera because he knows there's a camera on him the whole time when he's bowling. But he is showing more animated reaction to shots in qualifying than I have ever seen him show. I mean, he's up there twisting and turning and spinning and dumping and kicking, faking like he's going to kick the foul light or the ball return. And I'm thinking, is this all because the camera's on, or is this because he really, does he know that EJ Tackett has taken his spot from him as the king, and he wants the crown back? I don't know.
It could be both.
Could be both.
Yeah.
You're right.
But all right, well, we'll let everybody know what's going on next week when these tournaments are still going on. So,
Absolutely.
You ready to go? We want to do worst of the week?
Let's do it.
All right, Mike, I'm going to go first. I'm going to go to the random post on Bowling Science Forum, the gift that keeps on giving. Randomly, somebody gets the urge to post, like trying to teach the forum about bowling. You ever have these random posts you see on the forum on a group that is like somebody comes in and was like, yeah, I'm going to try to teach people this week. Like, it's just really strange. Anyway, Jay Vallingdingham on Bowling Science Forum writes, the only reason why you're not averaging more than you'd like is because you don't have any trust in what your bowling ball is telling you. Learn to adjust to what your ball is doing, and you'll start to increase your scores. You throw the ball the same way for most part, and the ball goes exactly where you throw it. Use this information to increase your scores. Get out of the habit of saying, I just threw a bad shot. You threw a great shot, but you just happened to throw in the wrong part of the lane. Straighter is greater for maximum pin carry. Like, I after I started reading that, I'm like, okay, what sport have you been watching? Work on throwing a tighter line into the pocket, and your pin carry will increase. Those who like to wheel the ball will suffer with pin carry because the bowling ball more often than not enters the pins from behind the head pin, leaving you a bunch of corner pins to cover if you're not on track. This guy might be posting from the 1960s, Mike, because he's completely saying the absolute opposite of what is going on in the sport, and you are obviously not watching, because I don't know anybody who is striking more playing straighter these days than someone who's hooking it. There's a reason why the best in the world has a 500 plus RPM rev rate. And there's a reason why not all of the successful pros these days are two-handed and have rev rates over 450, honestly. So Jay, stop trying to give people lessons on a forum. Obviously you have no idea what you're talking about.
Generally speaking, bowling has gotten to a point where there's been such a brain drain in the game in terms of good, knowledgeable people no longer being around or part of the game, that there's just a scary amount of misinformation out there and just the wrong information out there. And
here's a good example.
There's really a lack of, no doubt. That's why I say this. And there's really a lack of like great information and really solid coaching. And so it's just it stinks to see. It's funny, Rob. Like I said earlier in the podcast, and just from us talking off the show, that I've been taking my daughter to a lot of these soccer things and tryouts, and we go to different places to train and put in some work here and there and try and learn and get better. And man, everything we show up to, Rob, is packed, sold out packed. Okay, every training session, every clinic, every camp opportunity, packed, packed, packed. And I think to myself, man, if there was this kind of interest in bowling, like I would be printing money because, like, yeah, like people like me and you, and a lot of other people out there. I'm not saying that we're by far that we're the only people with bowling knowledge out there. There'd be a ton of people that this would be true of, but like there would be more interest in high level knowledge for bowling instruction, ideas, work, camps, etc. Like it's not it doesn't really exist. There's so few people that want it, because I mean, this is just my opinion. I think what I've set up to that point is pretty factual, but opinion based. In my opinion, the reason that it's not there is because it's so easy to strike. It's so easy to strike that people start averaging 200 very quickly, and they think, oh, I don't need a lesson, I don't need instruction, I don't, I'm already doing good. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I see so many examples of this in bowling these days, and it's just absolutely crazy how much bad knowledge there is out there.
Agreed.
So my worst of the week is from the Ocean County Bowlers Facebook page. So Ocean County is a county here in New Jersey. And the post, I'm not going to say who the post was by because that's not who I'm giving worst of the week to. The post was posting a the final four people for a March Madness tournament that is held in this county. Okay, it's a bracket match play tournament basically.
Okay.
It's on house. It's handicap. Okay, and apparently what happened is a guy came in with a 150 something book average, okay, where he's bowled in a league this year and has I forget what the amount of games was, but it was a decent amount of games, probably enough games that they could have counted his average. And he has an average, so he came in with like 150 something. His current average is 170 something. Okay, but by the tournament rules, the tournament director allowed him to use the 150 something average. I don't know why. I don't know all the details on this. The guy bowled really well. Okay, the guy and the averages that he has, to be clear, are in a different bowling center. They're not in this bowling center. Okay, guy bowled really well. Well, go and look on this Facebook post today, and oh my goodness, all the complainers are coming out. All the complainers are coming out and saying, "Oh, he whacked him, and he has a 150 average. Oh, it should have happened." I hate posts like that. I do. I really do because what the people that go and post that really what they're showing is they're showing their ignorance. They're showing their ignorance in the idea that they don't understand that these house patterns are so easy that literally if you just get your feet in the right spot with the right ball, anybody, almost regardless of how you throw it, has the chance to put up a pretty decent number. I'm not saying anybody has the opportunity to shoot 850 or 840, even 800. But I feel like feet in the right spot, right ball in your hand, perfect matchup, you're almost guaranteed to shoot, a decent 700. And I just feel like when people complain about this, they're exposing their ignorance in that regard. I'm also going to give the people that want to complain about these types of issues a really easy solution. Okay, for the handicap tournament people who don't like people coming in and whacking them with a low average. I got a really easy solution for you. Put out a tough sport pattern. And I guarantee you that a sandbagger ain't going to win the tournament. Okay? And that's it. That's my worst of the week this week. I guess you could generalize it to people who complain about handicap tournament bowlers that whack them on easy conditions.
Gotcha.
It's not always sandbagging, folks. It's not always sandbagging. Is it really that hard to believe that somebody who averages, let's say, 160 could go out and shoot 750 if they have the right ball in their hand and their feet in the right part of the lane? and they just happen to really perfectly match up in that bowling center with that combination, it's not hard for me to believe that at all. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen all the time. So if you want to avoid that, put something tough out. That would be my advice. But that's my worst of the week.
All right.
Final thoughts, Rob?
I think both probably have the same final thoughts. Is a lot of World Series of bowling this week. It's a lot of matches, a lot of stuff going on this week at night. So we'll try to catch as much as we can, right?
Yeah, well, the match plays this week. I think the schedule is going to be more of the same frustration, because I think the match plays, like the round of 16 and the round of 8 this week, are taking place during the day, and then the show is at night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's probably going to be more scheduling frustrations for the most part. But I do enjoy having the constant and consistent bowling action. I do appreciate that. I also want everybody to know that I did DM Bet Rivers when they didn't put odds up on Friday night for the matches, and let them know that as the world's best bowling gambler, which by the way is that title's seriously in question right now after the way things have been going this season. But as the world's best bowling bettors, I contacted Bet Rivers and let them know that we were not happy with them, that the odds were not posted Friday night. I also reached out to make sure that they knew that there was match play tonight and the odds need to be posted tonight for match play betting opportunity. So I'm doing my best. My final thought is this. I'm trying to give the short version of this. Most of you who've been listening to this show for a while know that I coached the high school bowling team for about 12 years, 13 years in New Jersey. And I started the team and I built it up into, I'll say the best boys program in New Jersey bowling, and a very good girls program as well, a very competitive girls program. But the best boys program in New Jersey. And we actually set some records along the way. And one of those records is that we were the only team to win back-to-back overall state championships, like be the last team standing back-to-back years. And we actually made the final 3 years in a row. And there was a team recently that matched that. Now they changed the format and stuff. I understand that some changes have taken place, but from what I've been reading, and I'm not 100% up on this, but from what I've been reading, there's another team right now, St. Joe's in Metuchen, coached by a name that you'll know, Rob. I know you'll remember this name from our junior bowling days, Rusty Thompson, coached by Rusty Thompson. And they've done basically the same. They've won a couple state overall number one team type state championships in a row. So I want to give a shout to them because I know how hard it is to do that. And it's an immense challenge, and it's a big accomplishment for them. And I think they have a couple young guys on their team that that we could possibly be hearing these names in a few years, maybe in the college bowling circuit, maybe in the regional circuit, amateur circuit as well, national amateur championship circuit type thing. So yeah, just want to give a shout to those guys and that team from St. Joe's Metuchen, their bowling team. Great job. I wish that we could have a hypothetical matchup between my best team and their team, or maybe one or two of my best teams and their team, because I got to say we had some diesel teams when I was doing it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
Oh, it does. It totally does.
I would love to put like my best Saginaw Valley team versus like a Wichita team of today, like, and see like what would happen. That would be
totally. It totally makes me think about that. Like, I see the numbers they're putting up, but I also know, like, all right, well, the scores are higher today than they've ever been.
Different game.
Yeah, so
game, but it's still fun to talk about.
It is, and it's cool. And like I said, I appreciate bowling at that level. I do. Like I appreciate people that put their time into helping others learn the game, and people that have a passion for that, because I certainly do myself. So yeah, definitely want to give a shout to those guys, and any of you who listen that know these folks locally. Yeah, please let them know. Let them know that I wanted to pass that along, because like I said, it's a big accomplishment for them. So shout to those guys. All right, Rob, we have one more thing to talk about to the people, and that's T-shirts, baby. T-shirts.
I got mine coming.
You want the Sweep the Rack merch? You want the merch? We got the merch. InsideBowling.com. Check us out. Partners. All right, go to the partners section.
T-shirt link, and then the content creators.
Okay, content creators. Check out Sweep the Rack. All right, and
Buy a
all
shirt.
the stuff is right there. We had some requests. We had a request for a "What's Good, Homie" T-shirt.
That's
it's
funny.
Coming. We had a request for
all staff.
All staff. That's coming. We had a request for pain, misery, depression. That's coming. So keep checking the site. We're a little bit behind. We're but we're catching up. We're catching up to the ideas.
I got mine coming.
Appreciate the ideas.
I'm excited. Mine are coming this week. I ordered, so I got my dry fit hoodie that I'm excited.
As you've seen all night on the scroll underneath, use code PatchPirate for 15% off. You get 15% off. Just use the code. It's our favorite code, PatchPirate, baby. It's our favorite thing around here. Somebody in the chat was just saying that the king of the Patch Pirates was throwing gutter balls in his ball reviews. That's not good. He better clean it up. They ain't going to send him more balls if he keeps throwing gutters in the ball reviews. That's wild. But all right, Rob, we're going to wrap it up. Join us on social media. That's where we do a lot of our talking. Rob had some hot takes this week on Twitter. Rob, I was loving the hot takes on Twitter. You had all the pros coming out and responding to you too. I love when that happens. So follow us on Twitter. He's at BrooklynRob11. I'm at the 215. Email us, sweeptherack@gmail. We love getting the emails. Keep in touch with us. There's bowling on like
all week,
all the way from the 16th, right? All the way from the 16th. I think Saturday is the first show. Am I right? Or the 15th, 16th?
I'd have to check. But
yeah,
the
there's bowling all the way from the. It's not Rob. It's not this week that the shows are on every night.
It's the match play.
Match play. This week's the match play for the for the World Championship.
No, the first show is the Mike Albee Nevada Classic that still hasn't been bowled yet.
Right, and what date is that on?
16th.
Okay,
it's on March 6th.
Sunday.
No. Yeah, it's hold on.
Is there a show before that on the 15th on that Saturday?
There's a show the show's on FS1 at 3 p.m. on March 15th on Saturday.
Okay, so that is what kicks off the string of shows. Right. So then there's a whole string of shows after that, all culminating with the World Championship. So we'll be locked in. I'd assume we'll be live next Sunday, maybe, to preview a lot of the shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And talk about what it looks like.
Sure.
But yes, we'll definitely let you guys know though. So it may even call for 2 shows. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. We got to look at the schedule a little bit more closely.
Mike's busy. I'm good. So
don't worry. We're here for your content needs. Okay, everybody, chill out. We're gonna give you whatever you need. You need 2 shows. We're gonna give you 2 shows. Okay, so everybody, take a deep breath and relax. All right, Sweep the Rack got this covered. Rob, fun as always. People in the chat, shout to you guys. We love the fact that we have a little community here. We greatly appreciate all of you joining us, chatting, checking in, etc. Looking forward to a great week and a half, 2 weeks, if you want to say that, of continuous bowling action going forward. Enjoy your betting. Bet responsibly on your bowling, okay? T-shirts, Inside Bowling. It's the last thing I want to throw out there. Everybody have a great week. We'll check up with you.
Later, guys.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.